So now we're going to add our first product. So to do that, we're going to continue through this first time setup and push the add first product. Up until now, it's been pretty simple to get a lot of the information of your course in the system. But this is a page that can be a little bit slower to do because what we're going to start doing is adding all of the products in our inventory to Greenkeeper so that we know which products that we can spray. So it's great to have that information with maybe early order program or recent invoices that you can go through and systematically add the product. And I really encourage you to add how much inventory you have and how much you paid for it, because that would be one nice way to um, be able to track the cost of the applications, to manage your inventories. And so going through that extra step of entering in the product now and what's in inventory is going to save you a lot of time in the future. But again, it is one of the slower parts of the first time setup because you have to have that information. At the same time, if you're going through this right now and you don't have all the information, you can always add that information later. You can always delete, remove, hide, show products. And so let's kind of show you how we do this. The first thing I would do and recommend to you is to always search the existing products first. And so you might think, what does existing products mean? I just logged in. This means products that are already in our system. And so I've manually entered in 500 different turf grass products, generally on the pest control side, some fertilizers. And so I'd recommend that you check this first for the easier use. So if you go through, you can see all the products that are in our system. And so we can just start clicking. So maybe we're going to add some 26 GT and let's continue down and maybe we're going to get some a new growth regulator. And so we're just adding in products. You can also search for them. So let's add products like Primo. We can really quickly just kind of go through, grab the products that we are planning to apply this year and get them added into our database. So there are some fertilizers in here. I know like some of the Grigg Brother products are in here. So we have things like Gary's Green is in there. And then we also have kind of a lot of the fertilizers that are your co-op AgGreg products. And so things like urea are in here. This brings me to an important point. It says urea granular versus urea soluble. So both urea fertilizers are a dry product, right? You buy them, you weigh them from a bag, and then you can do two things with them. You can either put them into your sprayer and let them dissolve, like dissolving table salt into a glass of water, or you can directly apply them with a drop or rotary spreader or a Vicon or something like that. So if I pick soluble urea and add it, now it has been added to my inventory. If I then come in and pick the other urea form and I do granular and add it, you might think, well, where did it go? It's right here under this spreadable tab. So products that you can spread, products that are granulars, they get under this spreadable type of product. Everything that we spray is in the sprayable type of products. If there's a product that's not here, it's not in your database, or maybe it's a generic, and so we don't have it in there yet, you can do new custom product. And so again, it's going to bring you a bunch of forms that you can fill out about that product. Some of the important ones, form. So liquid, soluble, granular. A liquid product, you obviously spray. A soluble product is a dry product that you dissolve into a sprayer tank, and then that's something that you can spray out. Where a granular is something you would push with a drop spreader or a rotary spreader. So in this example, let's say it's a soluble product, maybe it's like a wettable powder, and we're going to call it we'll just call it fake, just so we know what it is, fungicide. And then it's going to say, what's the reapplication interval? Here's some tricks here. A reapplication interval of 0 will mean it's a product that you put down once and you don't really ever want to apply again that season. Maybe something like a Celiprin, right? You would put down a Celiprin in May for grub control. or for insect control, and you don't plan to have to apply it for the rest of the year. You don't need to see, you got 365 days till next time you apply it. So if you have a product like that you never really apply frequently, I would put a 0 in here. Otherwise, if there's going to be some kind of reapplication interval of some sort, put in the interval. So maybe this one we say lasts about 21 days. It's an important thing to note too that the values I'm putting in here, you can change when you're making a new application. So you can change them on the fly. These are just what you would generally use. And so generally it'd be 21-day interval. And then it's going to say which unit. And since it knows it's a soluble product, it's saying you're going to put it down in pounds per thousand, pounds per acre, ounces per thousand, or ounces per acre. And we're going to do ounces per thousand. And then again, what's the default rate? Maybe it's a 2 ounce per acre rate. This can be edited later on. It's just what do you normally use? If you want to take the extra time, if you're trying to use Greenkeeper to satisfy pesticide reporting requirements and need extra information on your spray sheets, it's really good to put in your EPA registration number. And so this is obviously a fake one. And if you're in a state like New York, you might have a New York pesticide regulation number. And then is it restricted use? Yes or no? And then is there a signal word? Danger, caution. So let's just say this one's a caution. The really, really important thing, though, that I would definitely encourage you to do, even if you didn't enter this optional regulatory information, is push view ingredients. And I would highly encourage you to pick the ingredient that is in the product. So say this fake fungicide has chlorothalonil in it, and it's 25% the weight. And let's say it also had in it, let's grab propiconazole. Okay, so this is generic. It's got these two ingredients in it. Maybe that is 12%. The reason that it's good to have that and save it is because we will use that in Application Advisor to help get guidance on what fungicides or control products you have in your database will control certain pests. So if you don't assign an active ingredient to it, then there's no way for us to know, did that fungicide that you added to the system control the pest? The moment, though, that you add that it's got an active ingredient in it, now it can start saying, okay, yeah, we know that this custom product that the user added also would control this pest because we know propiconazole, say, controls brown patch. And so it would display that fungicide there. When you're adding growth regulators, especially if you're using PGR, growing degree day tracking, and that's your big goal for using Greenkeeper, you need to always make sure to add an existing product and grab a product like, say, your Trim-It. Because we have 700 different models in there in Greenkeeper, but they only link to these public products. If you would enter Trim-It on your own, it's only going to allow you to track it on calendar days. So if you do want to track growth regulators on calendar days and you don't want to track it on growing degree days, that would be the way you would do it. You just put in Trim-It as a standard product. The system doesn't know that it's a growing degree day approach, and so you can do it from that approach. Another similar scenario with that is like the application of proxy. Some people like to reapply it in the spring for seed heads on 200 growing degree day intervals. Other people like to just say, I'm going to spray every 2 or 3 weeks. And so you can pick which proxy version you want. Do you want it to track with growing degree days? Do you want it to track with calendar days? And so you can add that product that way too. You might say, how do I add fertilizers? Should I add fertilizer on this? No, the way we add fertilizers is to collect the new fertilizer button. And again, it looks very similar. Let's say this is a liquid, and we're going to sell this as a fake liquid fertilizer. And now you can add your nutrients. And so say I want to add my iron level too. I can add iron. And so maybe this is a 12% nitrogen, 2% phosphorus, 6% potassium, and 1% iron. When we are adding a liquid fertilizer, we have to go to the next step of telling the system how much does it weigh, because the density of the fertilizer is important to figuring out how to go from a fluid ounce, for example, to pounds per thousand of nitrogen or whatever nutrient we care about. So we need to do that through a density conversion. And so most of these containers, a lot of times are 2.5 gallon jugs. So let's just say it's 2.5 gallons. And then you would put in what's the weight. So maybe it's 29 pounds. All right. Now this system will figure out what the density is. Some of the labels, though, say directly on the container that it's maybe 10.8 pounds per gallon. And then you could put that right in there too. You don't have to put in the 2.5 if the label says the pounds per gallon. It doesn't matter. Do it either way. Either put in the full size of the container and what the full weight of the container is, or if you know the pounds per gallon, you can enter it this way. And then what's your standard unit of measure when you're mixing these products? It's usually fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. Again, you can add information about pesticides if it contains an active ingredient, and then you can add ingredients if we did so. But in this example, let's just say it's just a nutrient. There's no pesticides mixed with it. We'll push save. So now we've started to build our application. If I reset the page here, you'll see anything that was fertilizer says fertilizer. When you first add it, it might say -1, but once the page refreshes, it will show as a fertilizer. You'll notice that the growth regulators, like a new Primo Proxy Trimit, don't have a reapplication interval, and that's just because they use the growing agridase. You might think, why is you see that the Trimit is expressed here in ounces per 1,000 square feet. And you might think, well, that's fine, Bill, but I always use ounces per acre. So you can edit these existing products. So you just push the edit button in the green and then put in what's the unit you like to use. So maybe you like to do fluid ounces per acre, and then what's your favorite unit? So if your favorite unit is, say, 10 ounces per acre, push save. And now the system will remember that we want to use the 10 ounce per acre rate for that application. And so we can do that for, say the Primo here too. So we might say 6 fluid ounces per acre, and that's what we're going to use. The last thing I want to show is entering your inventory. And this is a really nice way to keep track of inventory, but it's also really important for tracking the cost of applications. And so if you want to add what your inventory is, which I would highly encourage so that you can really utilize the application summary page that we'll show later on, you click the little blue button here, and now it lets you add and update your inventory. So first thing it's going to say is what's the size of the container, the package. And so for this Chipco 26GT, let's say it comes in 2.5 gallon containers. And let's imagine then that we don't buy individual containers, we're buying cases. And so maybe there's 2 of those per case. So we had 5 gallons total. And then we bought 10 cases. And then we can put in what we paid for it. And I don't know how much the stuff costs, so I'm just going to make up a round number for now without looking at exact pricing here. But let's just say that this material costs $500, and it's $500 per package, or we'll say per case, or I can do the total cost. Then you have 2 different options here. You can either add this to your existing inventory, or you can overwrite your inventory. Adding to your existing inventory just means whatever value we currently have in the system, add this to it. So in this example, it would be 2.5 times 2 times 10. So you're talking about 50 gallons of material would be added to inventory. Sometimes, though, if you haven't used inventory in the past, the system might show you have a negative amount of product in material because you're using product, but there was nothing there to begin with. And so if now you're resetting from 0, then I would say overwrite. So if you're new or you're using inventory management for the first time, or you're like going out and you're counting your inventory in your spray shed and adding it to Greenkeeper, push the overwrite. If the inventory levels in Greenkeeper seem to be pretty close to what you have, then you can always add. When it's the first time you're adding the product, you can do either one because you're starting from 0. But we'll just get into a good habit of pushing the overwrite inventory button. And so now we can see we have 50 gallons of this active ingredient. And so we can go through and add all those different active ingredients in there to track that information. A couple other things to note: you can sort by up to 50 products on one page. If you do have more than 50, down in the bottom you'll have different numbers to go through different pages of products. Another useful thing is if you're making an application and you don't have any product in stock, you can deselect it by the in stock button. And so when you're making applications, if there's a product that you don't have in your inventory and don't plan to buy this year, you don't even want to see it anymore, instead of deleting it with the red delete button, you can just hide it and then add it back in when you get more in stock. So that really is the product management page. It is a pretty intensive page because it's tracking inventory, it's tracking the prices, it's tracking the active ingredients, your default rates. All this is being done on this page. And so when we're done with this page, we go to the home page, and now we can start actually using Greenkeeper.